Oh, it's a beautiful winter day, winter night here in St. Paul, Minnesota. Been a quiet week up in Lake Wobegon, Minnesota. All the kids are going back to college now. College kids are going back exhausted after having had almost a month off from school. They're exhausted from lack of a schedule, lack of discipline, lack of focus. Just to be free is very, very tiring. They sleep late in the morning, they stay up all night, talking about the nature of real life to other people, running up enormous phone bills, boys sitting late at night waiting for a call from her, from the great magical her, the person who can somehow make their life meaningful and beautiful, waiting for her to call. The high school kids have Friday off this next week, Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday this next week, and Monday as well, and so they're all set to go. There was a full moon on Wednesday. It's called the wayward moon because it's the moon that makes people restless. People who were all kind of set in place with their lives feel urges now, vague romantic urges that they hadn't felt before. People who hadn't gone to church in months, under the influence of the full moon, they go to church and they hear a hymn that they remember their grandma humming in the kitchen as she baked bread, and they sit and they weep, and then people who've been going to church regularly for decades go off to the bar, go off to the casino, and there's Aunt Lois, who they never expected to find there. Aunt Lois, who's in her mid-80s and using a walker to go from slot machine to slot machine, smoking a cigarette, drinking something in a cocktail glass. Oh, yes. Lois says, yeah, I only have a few years left. I want to make the most of them. I've been going there for decades. Got tired of seeing the same people, hearing the same things. I want to try something new. Women restless, getting out big garbage bags and moving through the house and just grabbing fistfuls of clothing, perfectly good clothing, out of closets and stuffing it into garbage bags, and armloads of unread books and giving them away to the needy. Men who feel this terrible, terrible restlessness. They go out and sit in a fish house and they have a beer and a brandy, and they start to think about Hurley, Wisconsin. Hurley, Wisconsin, up on the border with the Upper Peninsula, the town where anything goes. Wide open, Hurley, Wisconsin. Lumberjacks and miners go there for recreation. You're with a rough crowd when you go to Hurley, Wisconsin. Speakeasies and bordellos and saloons and men on snowmobiles riding in moonlight out across frozen lakes to meet wanton women of the night in fish shacks. What happens in Hurley stays in Hurley. Now it's a dramatic time of year. Pastor Liz's boyfriend Cliff was at church on Sunday. He sat about halfway up on the right-hand side. People tried not to look too closely at him, though they did notice that he seemed to know the closing hymn, Shall We Gather at the River, and he was singing right along with it. And they also thought that blue checked shirt and that herringbone sport coat just didn't go very well together. And those suede shoes, those weren't the shoes he was wearing 3 weeks ago when he last came to church. But it was a different cologne. They liked this cologne better. They were hoping that he would come to the fellowship hour so they could find out more about him, but he disappeared. Darlene, the waitress from the Chatterbox Cafe, went off to Windham, Minnesota, and she was going to meet a young man named Ray, who her friend Anna had introduced her to, and they'd been corresponding email for a while. She got a hotel room up there for Saturday night, figuring why not. And she met him for dinner. Perfectly nice man, nice shape and handsome and so on. Has a dog, and he seemed more interested in movies and Golden Globe awards than other men she's known in the past. And he just couldn't seem to stop talking about it. That was disconcerting. And then he said that a friend of his was coming to stay with him for a week and a half, a guy that he has known for years, and that kind of gave her pause for a moment. But men are allowed to hang out with each other. It wasn't that. It was that she told him that she was staying in the Holiday Inn, and she said, "How about we meet for coffee tomorrow morning before I head home?" And he just didn't seem that interested. He wasn't sure what was wrong. It was uncomfortable. She sat there and she ate her deep-fried walleye. And he said, "Well, I'll keep in touch." But he said it in kind of a vague way that didn't indicate much. She went back to the hotel and she ran a hot bath and she sat in it, water up to her chin. And she thought, I'm 48 years old. Maybe I won't ever meet anybody I want to be with. Maybe I'll be just me for the rest of my life. And she was surprised. It didn't feel that bad. She went to a dinner party at Arlene Bunson's the next afternoon, Sunday afternoon. It was supposed to be a Mediterranean theme. They were having hummus and figs, and women were supposed to wear white, long dresses and scarves with gold thread in them and sandals. And Darlene forgot about it. She just went in khaki pants and a blouse. It felt sort of odd. Three couples and her. Arlene put her up at the head of the table, and then there were two people on one side and three on the other, and one down at the other end. It just kind of lopsided. They all wanted to know about the guy she'd met up in Wyndham. Well, she said, I don't think anything's going to come of it, and I don't really care. Oh, that's too bad, said Margie Krebsbach. No, you'll find somebody, said Marilyn Tollerud. No, I don't think so, she said. She said, I can't really make anybody happy, and they can't make me happy, and I don't really believe in happiness anyway. I believe in cheerfulness. Cheerfulness you choose. It's your choice. I choose cheerfulness. It's good enough. Lake Wobegon is a good enough town. It's a town for people who love the good enough. You don't need to serve lamb on skewers that you've marinated for the past 3 weeks in aged extra virgin olive oil. You don't need to put little exotic spices that you need to order by mail, put them into cheesecloth and wrap them up. You don't need to do that. Just do as Arlene Bunsen did, and you just heat up some wieners and put some beans out and toss in some white beans and some black beans and some pinto beans and toss in some saffron. It's good enough. It's good enough. Sun is up. The town is beautiful. Lake Wobegon, Minnesota. Go visit it sometime. You'll love it. It's where all the women are strong and the men are good looking and all the children are above average.